to you after. So we are now live and recording the executive webinar for avoiding pitfalls when implementing social selling. Exciting topic. And I'm pleased to welcome two bright minds with me today. So first, we have Rob Teets. Rob runs a business development team at a little company called Intel, the company that makes the microchips that your computer is probably using. So Rob, super excited to have you here. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Amar. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been with Intel for 22 years and held many different positions within Intel, and most recently I'm part of a team that's called Online Sales, and that allowed me to get exposed to Amar and the Sales for Life team. So anxious to speak with all of you here today.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. And I'm also very, very happy that Chris Bryden is with us. Chris is actually a great senior sales leader, currently VP of Enterprise Sales at Sprint. Sprint, for all of you in the United States knows, is on a massive, massive trajectory. And Chris can speak to that, but he's also very sharp and astute at social selling. So I'm glad he's with us. Chris, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'll take the sharp and astute, that's for sure. Good afternoon or good morning, or depending on where you are in the world. Chris Bryden, Rob, I think I've got you beat. I've actually been at Sprint. This is going on my 25th year, so I've seen a lot of change in different things at Sprint, and I think one of the most powerful changes we're making is the move to social selling. It is, Amara said, we're trying to change our space, change our place in the space in the industry, and we're on a fast trajectory upwards, and the greatest way to do that is to get back out there and reintroduce yourself as an entity through social, I think.
Excellent. So, hey, folks, I hope you're excited. Rob and Chris have promised me one thing today, that they are going to give you unfiltered commentary and insights as to what it takes when implementing a social selling program. So be prepared for the good, bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So here's what I thought we'd do. I'm going to anchor the discussion and play moderator here. I'd like all of you in the audience to fuel me questions as well. Okay, so this is a very interactive dialogue. You're going to hear the three of us speaking here almost as, you know, three friends over a beer in a bar somewhere. So let's get started, and I encourage all of you in the audience, please send me your questions as you think of them. If you hear an answer and you'd like further clarity, etc. So here's the first question, and we'll start with Chris, if that's okay. Chris Bryden, tell us about how and why social selling became, sorry, this is a question for Rob, I apologize. So Rob, I fumbled already, clearly. Tell us about how this became a strategic initiative for you at Intel.
Too many beers already, Amar, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, Intel's gone through some dramatic changes in the last few years, and historically, you know, Intel is a PC company, you know, meaning that most of our focus and selling was in the winning of designs within the PC space. And, you know, that business is extremely important to Intel and will continue to do a great job there. But, you know, most of the companies out there that want to get into that space know who Intel are, and a lot of them came to us. And as a company, you know, we needed to pay more attention to other businesses like IoT and data center, where, you know, Intel may not automatically be thought of as the processor of choice. And that meant that we needed to educate and demonstrate Intel's capabilities in these markets to these other potential customers that we may not know about. And social selling was a great way to do that. In addition, you know, Intel built out an inside sales group, and their charter was really to develop and grow customers that Intel had traditionally not done business with. And our goal in that group was to be perceived as leaders in social selling. And then the last part, Amar, I think is important, is that in general, our management team really wanted for Intel to become more digital in our selling. And from a sales perspective, that means servicing, educating, and managing customers in a more efficient way. And social was a clear choice in that manner. So those were probably three really big reasons why we decided to go down this path.
No, I appreciate that insight, Rob, and I like the way you've chunked it up. You know, clearly the management directive was an important driver, but I think overall, you know, reps are starting to understand the power of social. Let me use that as a segue. And Chris Bryden, if you could offer some insights around how reps are really starting to use social. I mean, social exists. It's just that we're formalizing it from a company or from a program perspective. Would you agree?
Yeah, without a doubt. We see our team, and it was pretty remarkable, the 10-week transformation that we went through. But we've really doubled our social interactions with our sales team over a very short period of time, and we've already seen opportunities come in, and not just contacts, but contacts that turn into opportunities, that turn into sales in a very short period of time. So we see our sales makers at a very high extent using social every day to communicate with their network, which is fantastic, both to find the right prospects, but more importantly, to communicate with their network and become a valued asset out in the world.
Chris, if I may just ask a follow-up question here. So let's cut right to the end, right? What have been some of the high level advantages that you've experienced or people on your team have experienced by becoming more social in nature?
First thing I would say was confidence. There are two things that drove us to this. One is we have a very social CEO in Marcelo. He's just, out there and incredibly social. And then secondly, I had taken over, a struggling sales force that was reemerging back into the market. And as I did my own, little search, right, and checked people on LinkedIn and look, it was remarkable to me what diversity we had out there and how we were presenting ourselves. So I'd say the first thing we got was, a unified brand. We got a story, and we got everyone together. So it's, I think that was probably the most immediate thing. But then the other thing was, for me, is it gave confidence to the team. They really felt like, we'd modernized the sales force, invested in them by giving them, a new social playbook to work with. And then it was just purely activity. We started measuring activity as we went in, and our activity just, quadrupled in the social space, but we started seeing that almost immediately in the funnel. And then in our funnel, we started seeing it translate into sales early on in the process.
I like that. So Rob, let's transition to you if you don't mind here. As Intel started, their entire social movement, talk about the resistance. Culturally, most organizations definitely have pockets that don't believe in social. That's just a ground reality. Talk to me about some of the resistance that you heard about or personally experienced, but also some of the ways you overcame it as well.
Yeah, we definitely felt it, and with help from you and your team, Amar, I think we did a really great job of articulating the value of social up in our management team. So, their goal was growth, and obviously after showing them what the power of social can do, it wasn't really hard to sell it up to them as far as what we were trying to do. But selling the concept down to the individuals, I think, was much harder. Much of the Intel sales team are very experienced, and they've been doing this for a while, and they're really great at it, and they don't need us telling them how to go sell. And so, we ran into some resistance on the individual level. We addressed that by holding one-on-ones with myself. You participated in many of those where we helped the resistors kind of understand what social really meant. Some of them felt like social just meant I was letting people know what I was doing every second of every day, and that's just not really what we're talking about here. And so, having those conversations with those folks that were a little resistant helped them better appreciate what social was all about. And now, frankly, some of those folks are our best social sellers and have the highest social selling index of the teams. And so once they realize what it really is and how it really works, I think it kind of took on a life of its own, and now it's just a standard part of what they do.
So Rob, I'm going to kind of say this in my own words as well. So what you're saying, so for those commercial leaders and marketing leaders on the line right now, listening to Rob talk about the resistance, Rob, what you're essentially saying is really spend that time up front to define what they're going to do. Remove all the myths, remove all the hyperbole, and really show them the sales aspects of social. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the other thing that we quickly found is that, we had some immediate success. And when that happens, other salespeople see it, and they say, hey, how did you do that? Right? What happened? And the power of what you get through these social tools enables salespeople to move faster and get places that they may otherwise not be able to get quicker. And those resistors quickly turned around when they saw the success that some other folks were having.
That's a great point, Rob. Chris, over to you. So I mean, talk about the resistance, but we'd love to get some insights from you, your perspectives on how to get the sales team kind of corralled and unified and aligned into that one common vision. If you could provide those perspectives, I think the commercial leaders on this call would really benefit from that.
You bet. And I'd say, unlike Rob, the salespeople were a little more willing. My challenge is, well, maybe across the board with everybody, we're a transforming company, was time. So for the sales force, it was convincing them that, I needed an hour or so a week for a 10-week period to get them up to speed. But that was pretty easy. Being the leader of the sales organization, I could kind of drive that. So to your point around corralling, we did is, first off, you got to lead by example. I participated in the training. So I was on every training. I was on every call. I did the work along with my team. I learned to become social with them and use the same tools and skills that they were doing. And then we posted weekly results. So we'd show who had participated in the live training and who had completed their weekly assignment. So doing that, and sounds a little micromanagey, but it really wasn't. It's accountability. It was doing that every week and starting to post success stories and things, as Rob said, going along, because then salespeople get it. So we put some structure around it, made sure that nobody fell behind. We made sure at the end of every week, down to the manager level, that they had the score for their team and how their team was doing. But back to the core of it, there wasn't a lot of resistance. I think everyone felt social was important. It just nobody knew that we all had to get together to accomplish it. And I think our biggest challenge, right, was with our natural adversary, the folks in marketing, who don't realize, right, we're really all on the same selling team. Mm-hmm. They were going down their own path and looking at one thing. Training was looking at it, going down another path, going to build their own. It was getting everyone together to say, hey, here's another way to do it.
Yeah, I really.
Hey, Amar, if I can just add on to that real quickly. I mean, I think that's a good point that Chris just made. I think that a lot of the folks on our team understood that social was important, but they didn't know how, and they didn't know what it was. And so once you learn what it is and how to do it, I think they quickly turned around. So.
Great point. Great point. Absolutely agree with both of you there. Let's move to the next question here. And Chris, I'll start with you if that's okay. I mean, talk about the buy-in from senior executives, right?
So I'd say on this, you bet, on this one, I think I was fortunate in that, as I said, Marcelo, our CEO, is a true leader in social. So there was already an interest. Our teams just didn't know how to do it, right? So nobody would jump on the, take the lead, I guess, and drive it. But I would say we had very good support, but it's critical. We're a transforming company. Every penny is managed, and looked at twice, 3 times before we spend it. So I think getting buy-in, and again, having CEO believe in social definitely helped us. Having the brand team, which is who was really our primary sponsor, because they're interested in making sure that, right, we are representing Sprint unified in a unified way in the social space, right, that we're selling the same message and telling the same story. And whether I'm a sales rep in Albuquerque or a sales rep in San Francisco, that you're going to recognize who I am, and what I do, and the value I bring through the Sprint brand. But buy-in was critical, even as we move forward from pilot to a full implementation. Having your senior executives, we're again fortunate. Our new president has a very social background, and is very savvy and supports it. But without the support, it's difficult to unify sales, marketing, sales ops, HR, all the groups that need to get together to really be successful at a program like this.
Yeah, great insights. Definitely agree. And for folks who are not following Sprint CEO Marcelo Clare, I would absolutely advise that you do. Just Google him, follow him. He has an incredible Twitter feed, and he is really transforming Sprint. And I don't use that word transforming lightly. So Rob, over to you. I know Intel is a massive organization, right? And to say Intel is one company, there's probably like 15 companies inside Intel. But talk to me about how senior executives, and we'll talk at the inside sales level, right? Where I know you have direct purview, but talk to me in their buy-in and how critical it was to drive program or to drive the overall effectiveness of the initiative.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I think it's absolutely critical. And, as I said at the beginning, it was relatively easy to get their buy-in at the beginning with the work that we had done together, Amar, and helping them understand the value. But, the management team really wanted to change the way that the Intel sales teams operated on a daily basis to get more efficient. And this was a great way to do that. So getting their buy-in was really important. The other thing I think is important is that individual salespeople, are going to follow the direction of their management team. And if their management team thinks something's important, then they're going to spend time doing it, right? If it's not important and they don't feel like it's something that they need to be spending time on, then why would they? Now, having said that, now that we've been doing this for a while, I don't think the individual sales teams even need that reinforcement anymore because of the success that they've seen. So I think they would probably be doing this anyway. But at the beginning, they needed that, hey, we really want to get this done and we really want to, change the culture and that kind of thing. So I think it's really important. And as you said, Intel's a big company and, we don't do anything just because. And, senior buy-in is required for funding reasons. I mean, in order to pay for all these things that we're doing, we needed their buy-in to do that. So those things don't just happen. And the last thing I'll say is it was easy to continue that buy-in from senior management with the success and the data that we provided back along the path. We've had early success. We were easily able to show them and demonstrate why we were doing this. And so that kept them on board, and it's been really fantastic for us.
I really appreciate that, Rob. And folks, let me offer some insights from me right now, just from a moderator perspective. There is a deliberate reason why Chris Bryden and Rob Teets are on this call, right? That they managed their teams incredibly well during the heavy lifting part of a social selling rollout or the initiative. So as you roll out your program, have crystal clear alignment. And there's hundreds of companies that have done this well, and Rob and Chris are just symbolic of this. But if you want to follow a successful path, you need commercial leadership's buy-in. It doesn't have to come from the highest echelon. If you work for a company that has 50, 60,000 employees, for instance, it doesn't need to come from the chief sales officer, for instance. It has to come from a couple of change agents who are willing to drive their teams and make them change. And yes, it is uncomfortable. I had a call this morning with a huge company out in India who basically said to me, show me the silver bullet. There is no silver bullet with social selling. It's like all the other initiatives in your company. It requires great senior leadership's buy-in. It requires accountability from the sales team, and it requires ongoing reinforcement. I mean, if you were to ask me the 3 fundamental pillars, I would say that's it. So that's the reason why Rob's and Chris's insights are so important. Now, I'm going to end with this because I know this is a huge question that's burning, and we've crowdsourced these questions from our attendees before we even started. So here is the question I want to ask both Rob and Chris. So how do you measure the success of social selling? Is it just pipeline and revenue? Is it just LinkedIn SSI score? What are you looking at specifically? And I understand and believe both of your answers may be different. But Chris Bryden, why don't we start with you? What are you looking at right now on the ground to say, here, I have 50 sellers under my team, and I know that they're successful because fill in the blank.
Yeah, well, I think you hit it. It's ultimately pipeline and revenue. But for me at the onset, I've got about 100 people that we took through the program, and it was remarkable to me. We're a selling organization that 10+% of my folks didn't even have a LinkedIn profile. So the first KPI for me was SSI. Can we get our people social and get them social fast? Then it was ongoing, looking at things like, do they keep their SSI up, right, beyond the training? and are they socially connected, right? What are their connections? So we looked at the number of connections they had pre and post training, and then ongoing looking at that. Did we get them through certification, a number of other things. But it really was, we immediately started, once we got people through the first few weeks of training, we started, what I called social blitzing. So it's all about results. At the end of the day, we're doing it because we want to be a more effective selling machine. We want to reach out to more customers, tell our story, and bring value. I mean, ultimately, what that is, right, in becoming more social, right? It's the old concept of Aristotle, right? The best way to know your customers is to become them, right? So I think it really helped us become a better selling organization. But again, out of the gate, it was the simple things I could measure. It was SSI, it was connections, it was how much time they were spending on social. In the end, it's all about how's the funnel looking. Are we getting more interactions through social, and are we driving more sales? And in many cases, can we accelerate the sales cycle, or improve our close ratio? Because again, we're now first in, right? We're that first thought leader, and we're seen as a valued partner to our customers. We're getting that first call, not necessarily being called in for the RFP.
I love it. Rob, over to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Chris more. One of the things I wanted to say here is that having the support of adjacent organizations is really important on this piece. We had support from our sales enablement group, the Salesforce team, people that helped us track the things that we were wanting to track. So I think that was a really important component of it. At the beginning of our program, we utilized your environment, Amar, and then Sales for Life to track the progress of the team. That was pretty straightforward and very easy to do within the online environment that you provided. And at the beginning, we tracked very tactical things, as Chris said, how many leads you saved, how many searches you performed, and profiles you viewed, and things like that. Very tactical kind of things. But at the end of the day, what this is all about is making our sales teams more effective sellers to go win new designs and win revenue. And the other thing that we track is where new business is coming from. And we work with our marketing teams and others to generate leads and try to find new business. But we want our own sales teams out there looking for their own business. And so now we track where those new leads are coming from, and they're identifying those leads through our social tools, and it's been really fantastic. And the last thing I'll say on this is that, to me, one of the things that we talk to our teams about is that this social selling really isn't about Intel. It's about the seller. It's about you, building your own brand and building your reputation and confidence online. And so it's really more about the seller than it is about the company. And so I think it worked out really well that way, and we've seen some pretty dramatic results because of it.
Wonderful insights. Chris,
Yeah, I'd agree with Rob there.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was going to say, I'd agree with Rob there. What was interesting is
Chris, are you there, Chris?
May have lost Chris.
Yeah, we may have lost Chris. Okay.
Sorry, guys, I'm back.
Yep, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yes.
No, I was just going to say, Rob was right on. The one thing that I thought was really interesting is our employees saw this as an investment in them. And it is really powerful. It is about making you the modern salesperson, right? We're changing. We now have, 4 generations in the workforce, right? And we have a 5th one coming along, the I generation, which is completely digital. This was about transforming our sales force to be part of the modern world. And they saw that as they went through the training. They saw that we're investing in them. Ultimately, it'll make them a better sprint salesperson, right? And that's a benefit to me. But it made them a better modern digital salesperson, which makes their life better, their opportunity greater.
Yeah. Great insights, folks. Hey, listen, let's go to some questions here, and they are pouring in here. So I'm going to go to a question, and if it's okay, I'm going to read out names here. So let's go to a question by Demetrios. Demetrios is asking, what if the salespeople understand what social selling is, but my marketing team doesn't really know where to focus their attention to properly get started? What would you recommend be a good starting place to use social media and sales more effectively?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in on that one, Amar. It's something that we're dealing with right now. The initial social program was wrapped around how to make our salespeople more effective. But now that we've kind of gone through the initial stages, they're very competent and comfortable doing it. And now we're finding that we need to partner more closely with marketing for content reasons, the way that they put their content together and make it socially consumable and things like that. So we actually have a team that, including myself, working directly with our marketing teams to help them become more socially active. And so it's really something that we've worked through, and we are working through it as we speak. But it's a great point, and something that we've definitely found out along the way, that it's not just about salespeople, it's about how the company does, how the company talks to their customers.
Great insight. So basically, Rob, it's about aligning around content or the information that we can serve up to the buyer in a better way, in a faster way, in a more efficient way. Chris Bryden, how about you? What do you think is a great way to get the marketing team or other teams that need to be involved more involved?
At the most basic level, engage them early. I found that our marketing department was keenly aware and wanted to be part of the social revolution. They were working on their own, so I think it was getting us together and making them realize that we're all part of the same team was the biggest piece for us. But I think engaging people early when you're doing something is always the best way to get their buy-in and get them to partner with you versus feel like you're halfway down the road before you engage them.
Yeah, great insights. And I think we have time for probably one more question. And for anyone that wants to stay on, feel free, and maybe we can sneak in some more questions there. But here's the next question, and it's from James Berkey. James asking, Amar, what tools are these sales teams using for social selling?
Yeah, in my case, there's a few big ones, right? LinkedIn is key, obviously. We use content aggregators like Feedly to find industry-specific content that we can share. We use Hootlet to actually do that sharing. We use Twitter and LinkedIn for outbound communication. So those are probably the big four. I think there's other tools that we can use, but those are probably the big four that we are using right now.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I'd agree.
What do you recommend?
I'd agree. We haven't really invested in even the high-end navigator licenses. We found through the training that we did, we were able to use the general public licenses and get around a lot of what we needed to do minimal investment in some of the tools, but we're using the same tools as Intel. So it's LinkedIn, it's Twitter, Google, Hootlet, and the others that just, again, help us socially surround our customers.
I think that's the key right there. If I can add my 2 cents on that, the key is to just be better researched about your customers. I think, Demetrios asked a question, where do I start? How do I position a team to get properly started somewhere? This is about our buyers, right? Ultimately, that's why we're on social. We're here because our buyers are starting something here, whether it's research or some kind of advanced tooling or whatever it is, but buyers are online. So if we need to be there, we need to know that some of the tools that we're already using can help us communicate with them effectively. So I don't necessarily say that you need all these premium tools out the gate. It's a nice to have, but I definitely don't think it's a need to have. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, James and Demetrios. Let's take one last question here. Laureline, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Laureline Jones is asking, and I think this is directed more at Chris Bryden. So what did you actually do? What did you really do to help get the team going, essentially?
I hate to be but to do a commercial here, but we engage Sales for Life. We looked at a number of things. We looked at it developing ourselves, and trying to get internal ninjas to be our trainers and other things. But by engaging Sales for Life, we just found they had a program that got us from 0 to 60 in 10 weeks. So it seemed to be the fastest, most efficient, effective way to get our teams social, active, and going right away.
And Laureline, I did not pay Chris Bryden to. Okay? So I just wanted to
That's why I said I apologize for it. We did try. We tried 100 ways to Sunday. We created social ninjas internally. We tried to get teams together. We did our own internal calls. We had HR try and develop some training. And it's not to say all those efforts weren't there. Just like anything, sometimes the best way to do it is to get somebody who knows what they're doing to help you do it. And this was a case where I think it was the most effective way. Again, we went from, maybe 10+% of my sales force not even having a LinkedIn profile to a 98 or 95% certification ratio in social selling. That's just huge. And it would have taken us years in a large corporation to probably get there.
Yeah. Hey, folks, I'm going to power through one more question here. I hope that's okay with Rob and Chris. So listen, Robin is asking a question, and I'm going to actually answer this saying, is social selling more to you than just reps using LinkedIn Sales Navigator? Robin, the answer is yes, right? So social selling is an ecosystem, right? Think of it as just a plain old software ecosystem or a process ecosystem. And LinkedIn is a part of that. 3 years from now, and I have to give you my kind of unbiased view here, Navigator is an awesome product. I love it. Can't live without it. But as a salesperson, first and foremost, what happens if, say, Facebook launches a Facebook for Work product in the next 3 years, as it's rumored actually that they're working on? Then I have to be unbiased and say, I need to try it because I know that they have a bigger audience than LinkedIn, etc. So first and foremost, it's bigger than every other product or anything out there, Robin. Okay, Laureline, I think your question was answered. Elias, your question is it clear that sellers own their own account? Yes, they own their own account. Now, there are some legal implications of asking sellers to do social, which we don't have time to cover today, Elias. If you need any help or questions, we just have resources, which I'm happy to send you. Reach out to me. And here's the last question I wanted to pass to Rob and Chris. When making the change in the organization, okay, and this is a question from Matthew Murphy, who is the glue that holds everyone to their responsibility? Now, Matthew, we actually have in the background, he's on mute right now, but we have Sprint's program manager here. So his name is Chris Hudson. I urge you to reach out to him on LinkedIn. Christopher Hudson is his name at Sprint. Chris, I'm sure, would be delighted. I'm just offering his time up right now. But I'm sure Chris, and then there's folks like Danielle Miller at Intel, who are dedicated program leaders who are basically the glue that hold commercial teams, marketing teams, enablement, effectiveness, operations, training. They're basically like the center point, Matthew. But Robin, Chris, give us your insight as well if you think I've answered that correctly.
Oh, for sure. I
think
you have to have
as well. You have to have a program manager, but I think, and Chris was phenomenal.
Yeah, we had great support from multiple organizations to get this done, but Danielle and Jennifer Jang were our support team on the sales enablement side to help drive and ensure that we were staying up to speed on things. And I personally spent a lot of time helping the team move along and be part of it. So I think having a champion is important, and then having the support of the management team within the organization helped us continue to keep the teams focused. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, folks, that's all the time we have today. One last thing, if someone's asking me to repeat the name of the tools that were mentioned, the tech stack for social selling, and this is just a small bit of it, essentially LinkedIn and Twitter, and then Feedly and Hootlit. So folks, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you attending. We're here at your disposal if you need any help. Reach out to Chris Bryden at Sprint and Rob Tietz at Intel. Phenomenal sales leaders who have really taken their teams by the horn and are actively in the transformation phase. So reach out to them if you need any insights or help, and I appreciate all of you attending. The recording will be sent out as well. So thanks again, folks. Have a wonderful and positive day. Rob and Chris, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, folks.